Everyone to our uh, sort of Book of Morgan themed Zoom show and tell. I'm Suzanne Karr Schmidt. I'm the director of the Movable Book Society. I'm not sure. We may have some visitors from the Morgan Library sort of fan group mailing list out there who may have already seen Paul Johnson talking about this book in person, but I was not able to join in on that, so this is going to be a real treat. So as I can see, so a few of us have already started putting our locations in the chat. Please go ahead and do that. And if you are here from the Morgan, please let us know, because we love museums that commission books like this. So and okay, I see we have Florida, and I'm in Chicago. So and I know I saw there was the Temperleys from Scotland. Really exciting.
Okay.
And Paul, where are you? Where are you? Are you in London? Where are you?
I'm in Manchester. I'm 200
Oh.
miles north of London.
No, I still need to visit. They have some wonderful libraries at the university. Absolutely.
Yes, the Rylands, the famous Rylands. Yes.
No, I have colleagues who work there who keep telling me about those. Oh, Oregon.
Yeah.
We've got Virginia, Maine, Iowa. Oh, down the street from the Morgan. Lovely. Um, you should go. You should go see Paul's book if you haven't already. All right. Oh, wonderful! Thank you for letting me know, Sue. If you like what we talk about today, we have pop up things every 3 months. We have a quarterly meeting like this, so you're always welcome to join us.
Because in the walk and getting the stairs side channels, playing that brand of rugby, put it under pressure, and playing them
I,
stairs, get the ball hand there. And five.
So we have some technical problems.
Yeah,
If
sorry. We'll try
everyone
to
can,
fix that.
yeah. So if you can make sure that you mute your microphones. Um,
Okay, I think everyone should probably be here by now. So and I think we can, as long as I mute myself while Paul is talking, we should be in good shape. So shall I ask you to share your screen and show us the process behind this amazing and incredibly unique book?
right. Am I reaching everybody? Am I there now?
yes, we
Everybody
can
can
see it.
see.
Looks
Right.
wonderful.
Well, good. I said good evening because here in England it's 6 o'clock in the evening. So good morning to the rest of you. Well, actually, some of you may be at all kinds of different times of the day. But can I say it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to meet you like this and to share my work with you. Before I begin, I'd like to say a special thank you to Marianne and Suzanne, who's been organising this session. So thank you very much, both of you. Very grateful to you. I had prepared to talk about how this book came about, but I think I'm going to put that on one side and then just concentrate on the book itself. I'll just say this much. I wanted to, for 20 years, I traveled to the States for a month every year, and I loved America. I loved the enthusiasm of you all, and I love the incredible hospitality which has been shown to me over those years. And I thought I must give something back. I must make a gift of a book, one of my sculptural pop-up books. And then I thought, well, New York is perhaps the best place for it to be seen. And I had quite a lot of problems actually trying to find somewhere that would like to have my book as a gift. But anyway, cutting a long story short, the the Morgan Library showed an interest, in particular Jesse Erickson there, And this is how the book came into being. So I said to Jessie, I want to make this book for you. I want the pop-up pages to reflect your collection. Give me 4 kinds of books out of the millions you've probably got. What are 4 that I can turn into a pop-up? And one of the ones was this Da Costa Book of Hours, this medieval book of hours, a meditational book. And the characteristics of these books is that they have these wonderful tiny illustrations. And this book has the seasons of the year. And the one you see on the left is the season of March. You see the gardeners in the foreground on the right. You see the landed gentry on the left. And I assume that huge mansion there is where they live. In order to understand the design, to make it into a pop-up, I make a drawing of it. And on the far side there, the left right side, you see the drawing I've made to help me plan out the pop-up. I then make a rough one on white, thin white card. So there is just a preliminary one on the left, but the actual size of it is about the size of an average kind of magazine. It's that kind of size. It's not huge, and it's not as small as a book of hours. So it's about 1 foot high, 14 inches high, something like that. And on the right side, you see I'm going into greater detail there. I'm putting in the panels. I'm doing some black brushwork to plan out roughly where all the different parts of the picture are going to be placed. Now, I don't have any folds in my work. All my pop-ups and pages are joined with mortise and tenon joints. On the left, we have the tenon, and the tenon slots through the mortise. And then you see there's that triangle which slots through the tenon slot, and that locks it in place. Can you see how that works? See how that comes together? Now, I keep taking the pages to pieces as I change my mind and so on. Eventually, when I come to the end, I glue the triangle in, and that means that none of the parts can fall out. They're then permanently fixed together. I'm working on watercolour paper. It's called Waterford, an English paper, and it's on 300 gram, that's about 200 pound watercolour paper, and I'm using industrial fabric dyes for the colour. Now you're going to ask me what the name of the dyes are, so you can get them and make these wonderful colours. I wish I could tell you. The colours I've got are about 30 years old. They're in a big container, and I think they will last out my life. And all there is on the container is a number. I don't know what it is. Friends who are professionals in textiles say they think they are similar to Prussian dyes. So that's as near as I can get, Prussian. These brilliant colours. I wet the paper. I bleed the dyes onto the watercolour paper, and then I do pen work. You can see at the top left there, the pen work of that mansion there. And then I start working on the other sections, the frame of the spread, that's the middle one there. And then the next stage is joining the bits together. That's on the right side of the screen. But when I got to that stage, this is like 5 or 6 days on from the beginning, I didn't like it. And so that went into the trash can, and I started again. And it saved me going through about another week of work and 150 slides. This is the finished one of the second one that I decided to keep. If you can remember the picture at the very beginning, you see I've tried to keep it in general to the kind of general feeling of that miniature without necessarily keeping it to it precisely. Now we come to the second spread. This is part of a poem by Phyllis Wheatley. She came as a slave at the age of 8 from Africa, brought into the Wheatley family in Boston. They discovered early on that she had a gift for reading and writing, and in a very short time she became really a celebrated poet. Her first book of poems was published in London, and Hymn to the Evening is one of her most popular poems. And I've taken just a part of it, a part that I thought I could turn into a visualization. So I'm looking for ideas, and look at the ideas: the sun, the pealing thunder, majestic grandeur, Zephyr's wings, incense of the blooming spring, soft pearl the streams, the birds renew their notes. I mean, it's asking to be made into a picture, isn't it? I mean, wouldn't you like to make that into a picture? I think it's asking for visualization. And so there on the right is my kind of first rough draft of how that might look, using just thick or thin card and doing my artwork on there. Then I'm turning to the finished piece of work, watercolor paper on the left. I'm applying water to the surface. I'm bleeding the industrial dyes onto the surface. The second picture along, second slide, is then I'm beginning to make the kind of trees and the forest. Notice the holes. You know, one of the essential things about pop-up engineering is having lots of spaces where you can see through to the various layers. The last thing you want with pop-up work is solid shapes. On the right side, there's just another panel, which is started with just water and then applied dye, and then you see the artwork on the second on the right there. Now I'm beginning to work in some details. There's Zephyr up on the top left. There's God on the right side of the panel there. And then over to the right side of the screen, you begin to see how all these parts are coming together. Now, I've not counted how many sections I have, but there's probably 20 different individual pieces in each of the spreads. And they come together over, roughly speaking, about a week or 10 days for the one spread. Everything is in that one on the right, except the final stage, which I think we'll see next. Yes, there it is. There's the complete spread. And there is Phyllis Wheatley in the middle there, looking out at her birds, Zephyr top left, God top right. And I'll try to do then an assemblage of all those wonderful images from that part of the poem. You might see some words on the far left and far right. I'll come to that later. Now we come to the third spread, taking another book then from the Morgan collection, and Thoreau's famous, of course, Walden, that great book about nature, about living in the wild. He's probably the first, I think, probably nature writer. And I've just taken, on the screen there, I've just taken, I think, the first two sentences from fairly early on in the text. There's his famous hut. And on the right, you see the rough outline, the rough planning for how I think that might become a pop-up spread. Now, top left is then on white thin card, each of the individual panels. So they're like templates. Do you see? They're like templates that I will draw around for the finished piece of work. And on the right, then you get the rough design. Again, it's about 20 or so pieces there. It's a kind of frame. You see the outer frame, which I think nearly all my pop-ups have these outer frames. They centralize the picture for me. And I'm trying to get a lot of motion. I'm trying to get the feeling of moving water and springs, and of the forestry, the trees, and so on. Trying to evoke the feeling of Thoreau's Walden. Now working on watercolor paper and dyeing it bits of green, working on black pen work. Over on the far right, you see then the next stage, cutting out windows, cutting out openings, so I can see through one layer through to the next, to the next. There's probably 10 layers all going through in different asymmetrical ways there. And then on the left, getting towards the end, putting the sections together. And then on the right, there is the final spread with the hut in the middle, and trying to get variations of color, blues on one side, greens, and trying to get the feeling of nature and the beauty of nature into that spread. Finally, the Morgan has a very substantial collection of books relating to Lewis Carroll. And so I've taken Alice in Wonderland, and I've taken an illustration of John Tenniel's top left there. It's the famous scene of the trial of the Knave of Hearts. Now, he's accused of stealing the tarts, and there's the tarts in the foreground there. And I thought, what a wonderful kind of image to make then into a pop-up design. Of course, there are several pop-up books, of course, on the Alice in Wonderland theme. On the right then is then my first idea of just laying it out. Now you will see that at the top of the spread there, I've got what looks like a text. And I did think about having the text on the pages, and then the words just got in the way. And so I abandoned the text on the spread and just solely had artwork on the spread itself. So on the left, I'm now working on the watercolor paper for the finished piece of work. And I spent nearly a week on that and absolutely hated it. And I thought, it's terrible. And so I just threw it straight out into the, I mean, the trash can here is just full. I mean, there's more work in the trash can than there is on the shelves of my workroom. Because I'm throwing stuff out all the time, because I don't like it. I didn't like that. And I started again. And on the right side is then my revised design, which I'm altogether much happier with. And then I think, now we have some of the characters. There's the king on the left, queen in the middle, knave on the right. And you can see that I make up the figures. It's a kind of collage. So the head of the king is one piece of paper. His wig is another, crown another. The orb holds another one. So to say, 10 or 15 separate pieces of paper, which makes up the figure of the king, the same with the queen. And on the right, the knave, you will see how he's put together. So I've just taken that slide so you can see just the top part of him and the rest of him to be joined on. And now there's the final spread. King in the middle, queen, foreground. We've got knave left, Alice left, and right, the Mad Hatter, and the March here. And in the raised section on the bottom, there are the tarts on a table. I'm still not really very happy with that, but it's in the finished book now, so it's going to stay there. You know, didn't Leonardo take 15 years on painting the Mona Lisa? You know, I mean, I could easily spend 15 years on just one book. You have to say to yourself, right, I'm going to stop it. I'm going to work on it at this stage. Now, the wonderful Morgan Library. Now, if you've not been there, you must go there before you die. It must be a must. Wonderful building. And now you will see how I've tried to translate the cover of my book using the stimulation of this wonderful interior. So I did hundreds and hundreds of drawings of what the cover might look like. These are just a few of them. And from these drawings, then I attempt to select one of them. And what I've done is got a kind of rough idea on the left there, what it might look like. The middle drawing and the drawing on the right. Now, can you visualize those as a book cover? It'd be almost impossible to make, wouldn't it? You know, it's one thing drawing it. It's one thing with a pen in my hand. And I just start at the bottom of the sheet and I improvise my way from the bottom and I stop at the top. There's no preliminary drawings. I just work straight on the page. And I come up with these incredible designs. Those figures there are all taken from the ceiling of the Morgan. So there's nothing I've added. It's all part of the Morgan. But then to make that into a book cover, it'd be so delicate that you could hardly touch it. But I just love doing these kind of crazy improvisations of amazing books, which can only happen really in 2 dimensions and not 3 dimensions. Now we come to actually making the front cover of the book. And we have the paper ready at the top left there. I'm soaking it with water. I'm bleeding the colour onto it top right. Bottom left, I'm doing pen work and brushwork decoration on the cover. And then I'm folding over the edges to make the frame, that's bottom right, just like a picture frame, but hollow. So my books are almost weightless. Do you notice that the right edge is slanting inwards? Do you see that? Like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And that is because my pop-ups all lean at an angle. So you look down at an angle into the book. That really makes it much easier to see it. There is then the first stage of the front cover. All my recent books of the last 10 years all have doors on. I love doors. And there is the doors of the inner doors of the front cover. On the right, you see them in their kind of rough stage of artwork and pen work and line work and so on, folding them up, joining them down to the center of the front cover. Now there's another door in front of the first door. So there's the inner door. You see that over there on the right. There's the outer door on the outside of that. Now, the inner door, in fact, tucks into the inside of the book cover. And that is because I don't want the doors to stick out too far. If both doors were sticking out on the outside, then and same on the back cover, it would make the width of the book too wide. So I'm trying to sink as much as I can into the body of the book itself. Notice how, if you look around the right side image, I'm just improvising, cutting out pieces of paper. I'm just laying pieces down. And when I make a design or shape I like, I then glue it down. Now, getting towards the end of the front cover, there's the doors all joined in left. All the artwork in the middle is taken from the Morgan ceiling. On the right, the outer doors are open, but the inner doors are closed. There's bits of quilling, all again taken from the Morgan ceiling. Now, there's the finished front cover. Front doors open, inside doors open, and all the artwork there. There's about, I suppose, 2 weeks' work or something like that. And my days are long days. I get up at 5:30 each morning. I go for a swim at 6:30. I come back, have my breakfast, and I start work at 8, and I work through very often till about 5 o'clock in the evening. And then I stop and I pour myself a glass of New Zealand white wine. Now, above the front cover, we have these lovely arches taken from, again, the Morgan ceiling. There it is, top left, in its basic flat shape, folding over the edges of the archway, top right, then quilling going in, bottom left, and then the completed design over on the right. Now I'm coming to these triangular shapes, which I like to put in between the arches. That again taken from the Morgan ceiling. There's my kind of rough templates, top left, then translating that to the colour work, to the watercolour work, top right, joining them together, bottom left, and the finished form, bottom right. 5 days work. I completely, what did I do with it? There it is in the trash can. Top left, I didn't like it. Out it went. And my darling wife said, you can't throw it away, it's too nice. So she retrieved it from the trash can, and it's now on a shelf in her studio at the front of the house here. I started again, there it is, top right. Now look at the bottom. Can you see I've got light shining through? I've got spaces. The previous one I threw away didn't have any spaces. Now I've got spaces, which is what I love to have. Now, bottom right, my little cup full of my little pieces of coiled paper. And sometimes I would spend 2 or 3 hours just making these little strips. Don't they look fun to look at? Don't you think they're fun to make? Can't you imagine making those? And I thought one day I'm going to do a workshop on kind of curling paper for therapy. You know, lower your blood pressure by curling and twirling and curving pieces of paper like this. I have jars and jars and jars of these, and I just select them for my work. Left, spine. Left 2, clasp. The third image is the spine with decorative work on there, and far right is spine, sorry, clasp, inside the clasp. Now, look at the inside of the clasp on the far right. Do you see there's lots of pieces cut out? Now look at slide 2. Do you see they're all the same pieces I've cut out and rearranged? Do you see I've not wasted anything from the sheet of paper? All the bits I've cut out are utilized somewhere else on either the spine or the clasp of the book. This is a little tiny piece. It's about the size of your thumbnail, and it goes on the very top of the book. I couldn't resist showing this. It's a kind of model of the whole book. I'm still making it. You can see how it's all held together with pieces of sticky paper. You're really seeing the finished part. You're not actually seeing the actual process. You need to have thousands of slides to see that. Now, back cover, top left. Look at top right. Do you recognize parts of the door on the right? I ripped it all out. I don't like it. 5 days work, wasted, all gone, trash can. And I start again, bottom left, and then bottom right. Yes, I'm happy with that one. That's the finished back cover on the right side. Now, all the bits of the cover are there as separate pieces. When I carried my book over from Manchester to New York, all the book came in separate pieces in a paper bag, and I carried it on the plane with me, clutching it the whole time. I wouldn't let it leave me. I was so kind of concerned about it not being damaged. There's the front and back cover, the spine, the clasp, the ornamental parts at the top of the sheet there. Now, how do I join these together? I use piano hinges. On the left, you have the clasp. On the second image is of the back cover, and you see the piano hinges there. And in the middle, there is a wooden dowel, which I then thread through all of those. And you see that on the far right. The far right slide shows the dowel slotted through those piano hinges. And because they're all freestanding, that means that I can open that up to 360 degrees. I can make the cover swing around. There's no spring action, as with normal books. If you open it, it stays open. It does not close. Now we start joining the bits together. So the piano hinges then join the front cover to the spine on the left, the clasp on the right, and then above we have that archway taken from the Morgan ceiling. On the right side, you then have that triangular section, which is then just held in again by piano hinges at the top there. And then there's that kind of rainbow piece on the other side. Now, all those shapes can be changed around. It can be interchanged. So the person who arranges an exhibition of this book can change the cover every 2 or 3 days. Now, you tell me any other book that you know where every 2 or 3 days you can change the cover. So it might be the first book in which you can just change the cover of the book to suit whatever mode you happen to be in. Let's go on to the next one. Now, I'm putting another one of those triangular sections upside down above the one on the left, and that tiny little model of the whole cover, which I showed you earlier, is perched on the top. The right side slide, all the doors are open on the front cover. Do you see I'm trying to make it so you can see through the parts? So those triangular sections have lots of spaces in them that you can see through. Now, working our way up to the full structure. Front cover left, doors open, the clasp open, that rainbow shape rising up above there, which can go on the other side if you want it to be there. Middle spread is from the back cover. And over on the right, you see the open spread and the pages in the middle. Now, I said earlier that I didn't want to have the text on the pop-ups themselves because I thought I just wanted to have artwork there. And can you see I have a narrative or a comment about the writer or whatever on that other little spread in between the main artwork. And that gives a little kind of interval of light, of whiteness against the intensity of the other. One of my weaknesses, well, I've got many weaknesses, but one of my main weaknesses is I keep overdoing everything. There's too much of everything, too much color, there's too much massive things going on. And I have to be forced into white bits. And so the words then create a rather nice contrast, do you see, with the rest of the book. I think that now brings me, almost at the end of this one. So there is the back cover, all doors open, and then the right shows you from the outside, the covers open, left, right, all doors open. There it is, all is. And then you remember all of that can all come to pieces, all the doors can come off, everything can come to pieces. And I give them a set of instructions to the Morgan. So if they take it to pieces and they forget how to put it back, they'd have a map showing them how they can do it. Now I'm just going to finish with just actually leaving the Book of Morgan and showing you a kind of tapestry of some of the books I've made in the last 10 years. the pop-up books like these, that is one-of-a-kind pop-up books, I didn't start making until I was 68 years of age. Now, at that age, you're supposed to be winding down, aren't you? You know, it's kind of, you do jigsaw puzzles and you join clubs and things like that. Well, at that age, I really started like a whole new career. I had never made these sculptural books until about, when was it, 2005 or something like that. And my early books are all in my archive in the Johns Hopkins library in Baltimore. These ones you're seeing are all made since 2011. And this is just some of them. So I've been pretty busy, you see, for the last 12, 13 years. I have such a low threshold of boredom. I have to be making things all the time. Otherwise, I don't know what to do. You know, I mean, I can't, the only thing I can do is make things like these. So there's a range of the wonderful fun I've had over the last 3 years. Now, finally, I'm nearly 83 years of age. I want my last book, my last special book, if it's going to happen at all, it's going to be modeled on La Sagrada Familia, the great cathedral of Gaudi in Barcelona. And these are my rough drawings for it. My rough plans of what will be the most advanced book I've ever made. It's going to take over a year to make. There's a rough design for the cover on the right. And then more designs here, just improvisations with a pen of how La Sagrada Familia might look. Now, can you see that as one of my books? Now, try to visualize it now, right? Okay. Put your visualization hat on and now see that one on the right as a finished book. I need someone to commission me to make this. So, people are watching this. If you know someone who think you want, that's terrific. So at least now you can see what might have been or what might never be. And on that note, I think that's my last one. Yes, it's my last one of my presentation.
My goodness, thank you so much. This is an amazing journey, and I neglected to mention at the beginning for those who may have forgotten, but one of your unique pop-ups did win our Meggendorfer Prize back in 2021 for the lemon tree, and I admit was it of a similar scale, or I don't
no, much fractional of the
much
size.
smaller.
Yes.
Yeah, we should let questions come in from the chat, but no, thank you so much. This is an inspiration for anyone with retirement goals, for anyone who doesn't know what to do with their boredom. Just amazing work. Can you? Yeah, someone's asking how large is the book, and we'll come back to the second one, which is important in a minute. How large is the Morgan?
Right. Can I ask a question first? Is everyone actually seeing me now?
100%.
Yes, you're seeing me. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
The book. Yeah. The book is this size. It's like from my waist to the top of my head, about this size, right? But remember, you can change the bits. So you make it shorter or taller, as you please. So it hasn't really got a size. It's the only book in the world which doesn't have a regular size.
We had a question. How long does it generally take you to make one of these books? It sounds like the Sagrada Familia would be longer.
Well, the Morgan book took about 3 to 4 months. If I make La Sagrada, it'll be a year. It'll be the most advanced book I've ever made. And I think of its kind, and it's going to be sounding terribly arrogant of me to say this, I don't think there'll be any other book vaguely like it in the whole world.
So what does that honor of commissioning it run you? This is another question.
Well, the book the Morgan book was a donation, but the Morgan very kindly paid my expenses to fly to New York and put me into a hotel. So they were very generous in enabling me to go there and make a presentation, in fact, of my book there in September. If I'm going to spend a year on the book, I'm not sure I'm going to give it away. I think someone might need to have some payment towards making it. You know, a little gesture to an old man like me who has only his pension to live on, you know. So I'm not saying it's going to be a hugely expensive job, but something which would be a commission. And then I'd like it to go into somewhere like a library where people could see it. So my original plan for this book was for it to go to the Children's Center at the New York Public Library, but I couldn't communicate with anybody there. I found it impossible to communicate with anyone there to say, look, would you like me to make a gift of the book for you? So it's an idea. It's just an idea. And if anybody wants to explore this idea with me, how do people get in touch with me, Suzanne or Marianne? I mean, do you give people my email address? How do people contact me?
I mean, we shared the website.
All right.
I think is there an email on that?
You can get me through my website or through Instagram, and my title there is Book Art Originals, all one word. Book Art Originals, all one word, and you can contact me through there. But certainly, it's just an idea I'm throwing out of you, because at the moment I'm stuck. I've got nothing to do. You see, and I'm writing a lot. I'm loving writing. I've discovered writing, and writing is wonderful. If you haven't discovered writing yet, I suggest you start writing. Any more questions?
Yes. Marcia Reed. Emeritus Getty says, wonderful presentation. Are you making editions, not just unique books?
You know, people ask me this question so often, and I once started to do an edition. Now, can you imagine making an edition of the Book of Morgan? I mean, it would take about 10 years to make 5 copies of it. I'm not really into editions. A painter only makes one painting, right? A sculptor makes one sculpture. I make one book. So I don't do editions, sorry. Any more questions?
This way you can make it exactly how you wish. So it makes sense. Yeah, we had a question about the quilling paper, which looks like an amazing skill that everyone should take up. What kind of paper do you use for that?
Well, I use the same Waterford watercolor paper, but I'm a lighter weight. I use a 90-pound weight paper, which is much thinner. And I work for. Let me just show you what I'm working on at the moment. I'm making this is a cabinet I keep my work in the university where I used to teach, and I won't assemble the whole piece because it will take too long. But let me just see. This is a cabinet of my work, in a model of a cabinet of my work. Yeah. Now the watercolor paper here is much lighter in weight than the paper that I use for the Morgan book, because obviously it's a bigger structure. So the smaller the book gets, the lighter, the thinner the watercolor paper gets.
Here's a good question. Did you have any formal training that led you to do pop-ups, or was it that just came to you?
Well, I went to art school in the late 1950s, early 60s, did painting and sculpture. I didn't start working with paper until the mid-80s. I was on a sabbatical in San Francisco for 6 months, which changed my life. San Francisco changed my life. And I came back to England a completely different person, incredibly enthusiastic, because, you know, it's a wonderful city. And just, you know, so many ideas in my head. And then that's when I started working with paper, started making paper sculptures, and eventually making books. My screen has just gone blank. Is that something? What should I do to bring me? Can you see me? Oh, hold on. Oh, I seem to have lost you. Where are we? Where are we gone now? Just a blank screen. What's happened there?
Somebody seems to be screen sharing, so let me see if I can turn their
Yeah,
screen
I'm not
off.
sure I've just got a grey screen. I'm back again now. Thank you. Um,
We're back.
I've forgotten what the question was now. What was the last question?
Training.
Oh, yes, I went to art school, and then I didn't start working in paper until 40 years ago. And then I didn't make these books until just like, 20, 15, 20 years ago. So, I mean, I think it's wonderful that one can start again, start afresh, start anew, explore new ideas at almost any stage in your life, you know? It's never the end. It's always lots of new beginnings just waiting to happen.
That wonderful. We had one question about have you been to Barcelona?
Yes,
And
yes, we went there last year to La Sagrada, and yes, I mean it's just amazing. Today's newspaper here says that they've just finally done the final stage. They've got the final part of the cross on the top of the main tower. It's now joined on. So at last, after 140 years, whatever it is, La Sagrada is now finally finished.
I don't know if I believe that, but that's amazing. It's like the Cologne Cathedral. They'll find something to fix soon. Have you also have you talked to anyone at the British Library about this project?
I've been trying to communicate with the British Library for 20 years of almost nil response.
Well,
I mean,
I know a curator there who has been trying to do a pop-up book exhibition for a
well,
long time. We'll talk about it
please
if
put
that
him
if
or
that if it
her
would be of
on to
interest.
me. Yeah,
No.
yeah. I'm largely unknown in this country. That's why I love America, because you've shown an interest in me that this country has not shown in me. Now, I'm preparing my work for the Bodleian Library in Oxford. I have a close connection with them. That's the famous Harry Potter library, where the parts of the film was made. And that is where my work is. I'm incredibly lucky to have my archive going there.
I mean, they do have fellowships. Maybe that's something that would work well with your Sagrada Familia. Mm.
Well, that is a possible avenue which could be explored.
Okay. Well, I hope you will hope you'll be able to take your time and make it the way you want.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it was Mercer Cunningham, the dance choreographer, who said, "Every day I try to find out something I didn't know before." He said that at 82 years of age. I mean, isn't that what our lives should be about? Each day discovering something new.
Well, well, thank you, Paul. Oh, someone's asking if you would consider hosting a workshop on your pop-ups.
I'm open to suggestions of any kind. I've done several Zoom workshops, and I'm very happy to consider any ideas you have.
Well, consider us your strong supporters now in your
Look
future
forward to it.
endeavors here. All right, so I'm going to switch over to our last thing, which is the a little look at pop-up things happening, not in the UK or the US, but in Turin, Italy, and it looks like our Ellen Rubin was supposed to join me to talk about this, but I'll show her slides. It looks like she isn't making it today. Let me see. Go back to the beginning. All right, but I did want to point out that it's possible that the Morgan may have your Book of Morgan waiting for exhibition preparation, so it may not be available to the general public yet, but I just wanted to show this extensive record that is live on the website. That means you should be, anyone going to the Morgan should be able to, the reading room should be able to request this item. It is mentioned as being in the flat storage, which means where the large things go. So I imagine it is one of the larger books, and they do have a very extensive description, not only of the materials but also of the source material in the collection. So I think they did a good job explaining this object. So all right, but just moving quickly for our last few minutes to basically what happens when the Movable Book Society is invited to an international conference and exhibition opening in Turin, and of course we had to go. Ellen G.K. Rubin, Larry Seidman, and myself were very generously invited to come as guests of a foundation in Turin that not only has a museum for sort of childhood literacy called Muesli, but also has a pop-up book museum that recently expanded. So it has a more prominent space in the city and and in the country based on this. And I just wanted to show you Turin. This is the Duomo, the cathedral, which is where the actual shroud of Turin is housed. It is actually currently covered in another covering, so the shroud is shrouded, and is although it is at full length in a very conservationally careful setting with no light getting through unless you're the Pope, because the shroud belongs to the Pope. Anyway, I'm showing you this view because on the right they had an advent calendar, because we were there in December. December 11th was the conference, and it's not exactly removable doors, but they basically had this wonderful backlit artist work, which you could see a new view through the doors every day, and it just seemed like one of the largest pop-up items I'd ever seen, and it was quite wonderful. Let's see. So yeah, I think you can see this was, let's see, 14. Yeah, you can still see 14. So this was maybe it was on the 13th. I took this picture. Yeah. So, as I said, unfortunately, Ellen, the pop-up lady, wasn't able to make it after all today, but she wanted to share a few of her thoughts on this event. You can see the little pop-up guy coming out of the book, and the logo on the top. That tower is an important landmark in the city. They sort of inverted it for this image. There was a lot of sort of street art and lights and festivals happening around the same time that we were there for this conference, and Meggendorfer exhibition, and the exhibition was importantly held in 25 on this anniversary of his death. All right. Oh, here's Ellen. Here's Ellen with Lothar, taken from one of his few self-portraits. Oh, hi. Okay. And then there's I'm up on the front of the conference with Jackie Reed Walsh, who I believe is in the audience today, and the organizer on the left, Pompeo Vagliani, who's the director of the Pop-Up Museum, Thierry Desneaux, the curator of in France, and Carola Pohlmann, a former director of the Children's Literature Department in the Staatsbibliothek in Berlin, and we were talking about the importance of institutional support for pop-up books. Oh yeah, here's there was a wonderful collaboration with the Museum of Cinema, which is what is now based in that very prominent tower in Turin, and so they made a number of animations that based on what was sort of going through the head of Meggendorfer. They're really kind of wonderful. So it's both using the actual animation of the pop-ups and a slightly more creative look at it. And we'll come back to the music because music is an important part of the experience. Yep, there they are, the whole orchestra. Which as if you've seen Meggendorfer books, usually it's one or two figures. So this is an animation bringing the whole band together. So the show was children who are always happy is sort of the title, talking about the long history of Meggendorfer in Germany, though he is very, very beloved in Italy as well. And we saw a great number of translations. You can see in the bottom, these are not Meggendorfers, but they're other 19th century renditions in sort of pop-up dioramas of these other stories. There's that one again. It was a real feast of books. Sometimes you'd see the same book a few times, but in so many different variations. It was really wonderful to see what the variation there. Okay, then there was a good bit about how Meggendorfer became popular in Italy as well. And of course, a lot of this is down to the universality of the images, and the pop-up mechanisms really transcend culture. Here are some other wonderful, slightly more vintage examples. And I'll talk about this in a second, but there were also a few modern elements, and a very recent pop-up book that was one of our emerging artist runners up in the emerging artist competition for our most recent conference. And down in the basement, and this is what they expanded from. The pop-up book museum basically was only in the bottom floor of this beautiful palazzo in Turin, but in the new spaces they're actually above ground as well, and you can see from the street that there's a museum there and they're pop-ups. So it's really a wonderful expansion. The pop-ups collected really range from the 15th century to the present. Here's another few examples of, and these are just specifically Pinocchio, a lot of which are interactive as well. Right. So yes, we had a lovely time in Turin, but just seeing the deep appreciation for the same paper engineering there as well. And I just wanted to add a couple more slides of my own. The sort of grand structure we were holding the conference in. You could see sort of a glimpse of the top two floors. It was about 4 or 5 floors tall. And there's Ellen and Larry with the very grandiose columns in Pompeo. I think Ellen was talking about her Meggendorfer collection. Very lucky to have a number of different states of those books to see how the design process worked. Yes, and here's the museum. And the opening, it was extremely packed. It was really wonderful to see so many people from throughout Turin and throughout the region come to witness this sort of renovation, expansion, and this very important anniversary. So there it was wonderful to feel the energy and see how much everyone loved the objects. There's the one that I found particularly interesting that we don't really see in the U.S. Was an artist. What's it? Is it female artist Louisa? Was it Terzoli? But they have several albums. They weren't published. I think they were mostly privately held. But she in circa 1917. But she made variations on popular children's literature with movables in these albums, and you can see on the left some of the threads that were, I think, conserved. They put new threads on these volumes very carefully in advance of this exhibition. And you can see on the top one of the conservators who actually spoke at the conference working on one of these very delicate mechanisms. And the foundation that supports the museum, basically supports the sort of conservation as well as grants for education and the museum. And it's really wonderful that they're basically looking at the whole picture of taking care of these objects as well as showing them to a broader public. Yeah, we did have a little cameo. The Meggendorfer Awards book was in one of the bookshelves there. Really happy to see that, as well as the pop-up on the bottom right from our most recent conference. A little bit of ephemera there. Yeah, and then here are the two artists who were in school in Italy. They share the same teacher, and both of them were runners up for our Emerging Artist Award, and they did a beautiful job. And they their pieces were among the sort of last added to this exhibition. I believe Katerina brought hers in on the train that morning before the opening, so it was really wonderful that they were able to include new talent looking at this history as well. So I was thrilled to meet them in person as well. So just to finish off, I know we're running into time here, but there was a really beautiful dinner event for the conference attendees, and we all learned something from this, which is that Meggendorfer was possibly quite musical. On the back of the menu, there was his illustration of the so-called gnomen polka, or gnome polka. You can see all the little gnomes wandering around there, and we're not entirely sure if he was also the musician behind the polka involved here, but they actually played it for us, and you can this video is about 3 minutes if you have to leave right at noon or 1, no worries, but I just wanted to share a little bit of the broad sort of intellectual scope of one of our favorite 19th century, early 20th century paper engineers, and you'll get a little bit of a sense of how seriously the foundation was taking all of this, because they hosted the dinner in their palace, and it really was a beautiful space and a beautiful evening to appreciate the pop-up book. So here we go.
To the sound, and that's for you, and it's just a pop-up in this evening, a new surprise. So enjoy this book.
we certainly weren't expecting that. And I love the fact that he was actually playing from the illustrated musical pages from Meggendorfer. So let me see if there's any questions in the chat here. Someone's asking about Turin. If you like Egyptian art, they have one of the most amazing collections in the world in a museum there. There's also a very, very extensive royal library and museum setup. You could probably spend a day or two in there. Wonderful paintings. Love, a nice garden depending on when you're going. On November, it might still have some well tended trees. There's a fair amount to do there, Kate. Yeah. All right. Oh, thank you, Sue, for joining us. I hope you'll be back. Let's see. Great. We're a little bit over one. So if we don't have any more questions about either of these presentations, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend.